presented by SF Scrabble Club, Word Game Players Organization, and the Collins Coalition. I'm Mike Frentz alongside Jesse Day, and we are looking forward to the final 4 rounds of this tournament as our champions are crowned. We start today with a matchup between the leader in the WoW division, Joe Edley, on your right, and Jerry Lerman, trailing by 2 games. These two have a long history between each other. They're lifelong friends. I believe Jerry was the best man at Joe's wedding, or maybe it was the other way around.
That's very cool.
So Jerry to go first, holding AADDEMT.
Metadad. I like it. It's like not just about being a dad, it's about being a metadad.
So Jerry going to take a minute here. This looks like a frequent stylistic choice that comes up, whether to play long or short with these sort of racks. The long play would probably be something like Mated for 22. The short play, trying to go for bingo, would be Mad or Damn for 12. Does the sacrifice of 10 points look worth it to you here, Jesse?
Yeah, this is right on the cusp. I agree with you that it could come down to stylistic preference and where Jerry wants to take this game strategically. I do generally believe that you get quite an advantage from getting the first bingo down. And so I think making a shorter play that keeps better tiles. So when we say a bingo, we mean a 7-letter play using all 7 of your tiles and getting that 50-point bonus. And with Mated, you're playing off 2 of your best tiles, the E and the T. And also Mated gives back some scoring plays. The E is under the double letter score. And for those reasons, I think Mad is pretty solid. Doesn't give a ton back. With that said, with Joe's actual letters, he should be able to strike first and get the first bingo down.
Yeah. With Joe having drawn an S and a blank and a reasonably balanced rack, whichever play Jerry made wasn't going to matter. Indeed, I haven't looked yet, but putting the A in the double-double line or the D on the center score may have given a better play than the mid-70s Joe's going to score here, mostly with plays hooking Made.
That's right. And here he's going to straightforwardly put down some kind of bingos, some kind of bingo. It could be dunkers, duikers, which is an antelope. Duckers sounds like a word. He's going to have his pick. He'll look for a bit to see if he has something superior. But I think we're going to see the first bingo of the game pretty straightforwardly here. Oh, and he plays Duskier. And that's the optimal play. It's very precise. It triples the K. And that's what you would like to do. With a flexible rack, you're not just trying to get a bingo down, but ideally the best bingo. And he has done that by tripling the K. Is that the highest scoring one, Mike?
That's the highest one we found here.
Very nice.
So back over to Jerry with the Z on his rack and otherwise flexible tiles. ACDENTZ is the rack here. And normally the Z is considered a power tile. It's one of the easiest ways to get points. But in the early game, when the board isn't necessarily ready for the Z, when it doesn't have a ready-made high-scoring spot, you would almost rather get rid of it for reasonable score and work more towards a bingo.
That's right. The further into the game, usually the more spots there are for power tiles, where a power tile refers to the J, the K, the Q, the Z, all the ones that are either 10 points or 8 points that can pack a scoring punch. And right now, it seems that we don't have a great spot for the Z on the board yet. And I also don't think it's that likely for a spot for the Z to get open. So I agree with you. Play it now, get a decent score out of it, and move on and try to get a bingo down.
So as to what those options are, something like adds through the D of dusk here is 34.
That looks like an enticing play to me.
Michael also coming up with the option of just dropping the Z for 11, trying to draw a bingo to ACDENT. I don't necessarily love that idea, just because it's not going to be. Okay, so it looks like ads has come down.
Yeah, very reasonable, 34 points.
And Joe, with one of the wrecks that we all hate, 7 1-point tiles, no available bingos.
Well, let me tell you about a lexicon called Colin's Scrabble words. In the international lexicon, he would have bingo, and this would be a straightforward play. But yeah, he's got to dig in and figure out what to make of this almost wordy, but not quite wordy soup. I see things like lour under the E of adst. Putting the R in the triple lane, slightly nerve-wracking, but he keeps very strong tiles with it. He could bingo through the R himself if he puts it down. I don't think that's Joe's style so much. Joe and Jerry are legends of the game, and they've been playing for a very long time. And in some ways, they espouse an older style that's a little more turnover heavy, but also pretty cagey. I think prone to blocking high scoring spots, not really embracing too much volatility. And to me, Knight just really feels like that, where he's simply not giving anything back and resetting the rack.
Yeah, Nitrous is not a play that would have occurred to me, and
Eccentric, Jerry strikes back with a bingo of his own, a big bingo too. That's going to be 89 points. Very nice. One of the challenges of having a C bingo is oftentimes it's hard to get them on the board. This time, Jerry has centric on his rack, finds the A on the board, and puts down eccentric. But Joe is going to respond immediately with a bingo of his own.
Yeah, the disadvantage, if you want to call it that, excuse me, of a play like eccentric is now you have reopened lines, and with Joe having played off 6 tiles on his previous turn, you're not generally that worried about a bingo. But in this case, both the N and the R give options to Joe, and
I'm almost surprised we haven't seen the one through the N yet, because it's commandingly good. Gainlier 86. And remember, if you play a word that touches multiple double word scores or multiple triple word scores, the bonuses compound. So Gainlier is a double word score times another double word score. So a 4-timer, it's sometimes called obscurely. And Gainlier, if it goes down, 86 points. In fact, I'm really quite surprised we haven't seen it yet, but here it comes.
Yeah, I trust Joe to find this.
Yes. And find it he has. Very nice. Completely negating eccentric, leaving Joe with a solid lead, although obviously there's lots of room for Jerry to come back and catch up. It's still anyone's game. We could talk about the overall standings of the tournament briefly until we wait for Jury's hand to move itself. So Joe is in the sole lead of the tournament. He has 13 wins. Second place, the only player one win behind him is Nolan Miranda, 22nd seed. A big story that he's kept in striking distance. Very impressive performance in an open tournament with many top experts. And then we have a host of players that are 2 wins back from Joe Edley at 11-5. One of them being Jerry. And Jerry had the blank of his own. Jerry does have a propensity for putting his hands in front of the camera. But he has a blank of his own. He gets down the bingo really quickly here. Getting it down fast is nice. These blank bingo backs can be quite agonizing. But here he sees the very strong forgives 84 points.
Mm-hmm.
And he's back up.
We'll get the scores updated momentarily for you.
219 to 178, 41-point lead. So this is a good one. This is going to be anyone's game. And yeah, as mentioned, very important. If Jerry wants to stand a chance of winning this tournament, he essentially has to win this game. And the other players at 11-5, very strong. Jem Birch, Rafi Stern, also in contention. And we saw Jem a couple of times on stream playing some really great games, and Rafi as well. And it's just going to be a thrilling end to this tournament.
So Joe here with the J, and not an amazing place to play it that jumps off the page here. Could get 38 if he wanted to burn his S playing Joe's on theme through the E of ads. Something like Jam seems more in keeping with his style above the NI of nitrous for 32.
I think Jam and above nitrous is somewhat of a no-brainer. Not that anything in Scrabble is a true no-brainer, but really, even in the middle portion of this game, with the board being relatively open, you want to get the next bingo down. And Jam basically pulls him level, keeps ANOS, which is, well, not the best bingo rack ever. It is balanced, which means it has an even number of vowels and consonants. And I think Jam, I don't really see a reason not to play it here. For some reason, my mind has Hamon stuck in it, which is maybe a sign that I need to go eat more breakfast after this round.
I think Joe may well have spotted Jam and is just convincing himself that there isn't anything that improves on that, but down it comes for 32, almost leveling the scores here. Over to Jerry, who was hoping to get an L for inviable, but with that not forthcoming, he'll have to come up with some other plan. I would be looking to get rid of the B and the V if possible. Something like Vibe jumps out to me. It would underlap the NIT of nitrous, forming ANI and MIB.
Right. It's very much the equivalent of what Joe just did, of play off your worst tiles and keep balanced letters and hope to draw into some kind of a bingo. I think Vibe is commandingly good here. And there's essentially just one place to play it. And the blanks on relatively early in this game is an important dimension as well, but I'm sure they'll be aware of, because the blank is kind of the great equalizer. If you draw a blank, you can usually get a bingo down, whatever your rack happens to be. But without the blanks out there to draw into, you have to be a little bit more deliberate about sculpting your rack and keeping good letters such that you can eventually bingo.
Right. You mentioned that both Jerry and Joe play a bit of a turnover heavy, dig into the bag for the good stuff style. Well, the good stuff isn't there because both blanks and two of the S's are already gone. The J and the Z and the K are gone. So really, it would be two S's and an X that you would be digging towards, and that's not enough to justify sacrificing points for turnover, or even in a situation where two other plays might be equal, leaning to the turnover play for turnover's sake.
And the Q is even lurking without particularly great prospects for being able to play it somewhere. So, right, the board, I would say, or the game situation does favor making smaller plays. They actually have a lot of time on the clock because shorter plays means you end up having to make more moves. And if you're in time trouble, that can be difficult to accomplish. But he has 5 lined up. I wonder, I haven't seen him put another candidate on his rack. And there it goes. And over to Joe, kind of a similar rack to last turn, where it's not bad. You could see it approaching a bingo, but it's also doesn't do anything spectacular in the immediate turn, and he just needs to slowly corral it towards looking like a bingo. And he's going to do that by playing off his 2 worst tiles here, just OW. Interesting that he played it where he did, actually, because he had Woe and EW and DO for 3 more points at the right side. And he has intentionally eschewed scoring the 3 extra points. And I think it's because he wants to get the board tighter. He doesn't want to give back a space for Jerry to bingo.
Or potentially he could be leaving that E open for himself to bingo, because AILNS is the sort of leaf that could really use an E. And even though there are plenty to draw, he may want insurance against not getting one.
Excuse me. Yeah, that's a great point. I would love to know what his logic was with not taking the 3 points. Again, kind of reflecting that cagey style that I alluded to, but I wonder what scares him the most. In the meantime, Jerry has ended up with a Q on his rack. We mentioned that would be a bit of a boogeyman. I think he can just play QI and Gi, which is a karate outfit. That's 25 points. I don't think he's going to do any better than that. So it wasn't a huge speed bump. But the Q's out of the way, and he had to leave ALNOY, which is not really that close to a bingo. Joe might have a slight tempo advantage here, even though Jerry is up on the scoreboard.
With a 39-point lead for Jerry, back over Joe, who's drawn the W and the Y, which this shows the value of keeping a flexible leaves, something like AILNS, is that even if you draw bad tiles with them, you will usually have some kind of play that can use those flexible tiles you kept to get rid of the high point tiles for good score. In this case, something like Whaley or Waney in the spot under ads would be 41 points, and QI doesn't really telegraph enough about Jerry's rack to make you scared of opening triple here, so I would expect one of those plays to come down.
But at the same time, you saw that Joe with the slight throwing up of the hands there, where given his last play, he was very conscious about opening space to bingo. And I think he's almost asking himself, do I have to do this? Do I have to open the board? Is there any way that I can avoid it? But it is just too many points. I think he's going to put it down right now. Joe with the stretch to get to that top part of the board. It's a big table to make room for our streaming apparatus.
So Joe retaking a very slight lead here, 271, 269. Jerry draws the second A and the F, which again, we after the early flurry of bingos, we slowed down into trading 30 to 40 point
salvos.
Jabs rather than haymakers here. Something along the lines of Ofe to the top right, just to take out the triple, get rid of probably his worst two tiles in the second A and the F, score 30, keep the pressure on, keep building towards another bingo.
But it does keep the Y, which is not very bingo compatible, it must be said.
It is not, although the LY combination and to an extent the NY as well help offset some of that.
That's a good point. That's what he's gone for. Or no, Flay. Did he keep 3 vowels on that?
He did.
Or no, he kept ANOY versus ALNY. I will say, if you're going to keep the Y, I would really prefer to pair it with the L, as you mentioned. That seems like a synergetic. Oh, look at this!
Joe is not going to give chat time to find the bingo here.
I thought it was Punship. Beautiful. And it triples the H. Look at that. That is just gorgeous. Wow.
Yeah. While this is coming down quickly back to Jerry's play, he may have. I would say he saw something in the pool that I didn't, but there were multiple O's left, and not enough of an imbalance to justify, in my opinion, that kind of a play. So maybe a little misstep from Jerry, although it wouldn't have mattered with Joe's rank.
But he has kept really some potentially useful letters. Well, A now opened on top of pushpin. If you just had a high-scoring consonant of some variety, or if you had drawn the X, you'd be able to reply immediately to pushpin. Without that, actually, this is going to be pretty tough for him.
So we're going to let our score machine update here. 345, 299 in Joe's favor. Jerry with AINOORY. And you can see for yourselves how much better that rack would be with an L instead of the second O. I don't believe it would be a bingo, but it would be a lot closer.
And meanwhile, we see Joe's pulled the X for XI, so this could get out of hand here. I think Jerry's situation is rough enough that he probably has to play something at the bottom right to open. The question, of course, is what? I think he could do Yo or Yon or even Yoni. I kind of like Yon myself because, well, there are a lot of hooks available, but there's only the one D, the one I unseen. And I think he's going to need a bingo to get back. And Jan actually scores quite decently here. He scored 26 points. And potentially give or set up a hook that Joe may not have. Of course, we can see that Joe has the D, and he's going to punish that. I don't know if this is how Jerry is going to approach this position. Or maybe I wonder if he feels the same degree of desperation. I mean, He's only 46 points down, but it's hard to see how he's going to come back without a bingo. He could also just do yo in the same spot. That's quite safe. It sets up a 7-letter bingo spot. The C at the bottom of the board remains open. Yeah, I think he's just going to play yo here. And the N is quite helpful to that lead, so I can see why he did that instead of yon.
Yeah, and it also sets up the yon hook. And
That's right.
A lot of plays ending ION could easily land there.
That's right. It also slows things down a little bit, playing 2 tiles instead of 3. But Joe just slaps down Ox with the O upside down just for insult to injury. Joe, I believe, had hotboxed if there was a B on the board. Unfortunately, that's only in the international lexicon, but not on Joe's radar. Maybe for the best.
And we're waiting for Jerry to move his hand so that we can see what he drew. This is an important draw for him. He pretty much needs to bingo either this turn or very soon to overcome this 80-point lead and put pressure on Joe going into the pre-end game and end game.
But did Joe pick up a bingo of his own? Is that an O?
I believe that is... Well, he would have kept TEHOT, and that looks like NR on the right side. So Northed or Throned will be going down on the N column unless Jerry picks up one of his own, although his bingo isn't going to block Joe's as it happens.
That's right. It did pay off for Jerry. He did draw a bingo here. And he is going to lay it down and feel momentarily like he's in with a shout, playing Anoretic.
Yeah, and I do like playing it to the left to separate the new bingo lines to the A and the N from the line on the right, so that if Joe gets one of those, he can get the other one back. So 83 for Anoretic, which we believe is going to be answered by Throned or Thorned for 72 from Joe.
That's a tough blow to absorb because Anoretic should give him a great chance. It makes the score level, but Jerry's hand isn't even out of the bag before the reply comes down. And it's going to be North, tripling the H, no less. Joe's been prolific at that this game, getting the absolute most out of every bingo that he put down.
Except for the part where North...
Oh, is it Northing? Northing is good with an S. Northings, but North isn't good. Jerry, look up. Oh, my goodness.
And Joe's drawing tiles, so Jerry
No.
appears to have let this go.
Oh, that's an infamous phony. Unbelievable. Thorned, Throned. But North, not acceptable. It's famously so. There's a mnemonic with compass directions and which ones take ing and which ones don't. Easting, northing, westing, southing, but famously you can't do a compass direction in TWL and add ed except for south. All the other ones are phonies. Amazing what's in the dictionary there.
Those of us who have been at this for a while know that seeking consistency in the dictionary is in many ways a fool's errand. But yeah, to lose track of that at such a critical moment in this game and in this tournament. You know, if Joe holds on to win this game and Nolan in second place, who I believe is playing...
Nolan was playing Jem Birch, so that's really going to dictate the next challenger.
Yes.
essentially.
So if Nolan loses that game, Joe will be 2 games clear with 3 to play. So,
I really feel for Jerry.
so his rack here, we saw ABEEGIN. Nothing seems to give much in the way of winning chances. There's no real good way to. If were there something like an R in the pool, Jerry could try to fish off the A, leave 1 in the bag, and hope to draw Virginia to the A, but that doesn't appear to be possible.
Right, he's even lined it up. But it looks like our tiles at the top left of the screen are. I keep calling it the screen. It's like I want a primal screen. There we go. AEELOSTTU. So essentially, what he would have to do here is to fish and to bingo out. And it's only the left side of this board that is now open. I guess the C is another stealthy way of bingoing. He could go for something like Reagenic.
Fishing the B and trying to hit A genetic might actually be a reasonable shot here. There
Right.
are 2 T's to draw.
I think Agenetic might be the best he can do.
And the trouble with that is that even though Joe will, out of necessity, have all 1-point tiles, he should still be able to score enough, even if he doesn't block Agenetic, to just outrun it. Something like Soul or Sate in the bottom right quarter hooking Yods ought to be enough to outrun that, unless you could score a lot more points with the B than I'm seeing. He could play above the A of Gainlear, but that blocks his own bingo line, so that doesn't help.
Right, he might just settle for cutting the spread here. He goes for aging.
Yeah.
Waving the white flag. And, I understand why he did that, because his spread could possibly influence his placement in the tournament. And it's understandable to not go chasing at windmills and end up losing by 150 when you could have cut the spread to 60 or 70. With that said, you never know when your opponent is going to lose their minds, because I've seen it happen. In fact, I have done it against Jerry. I once had a tournament where I was on the cusp of going undefeated for an entire day of Scrabble, 6 games. I was playing Jerry in the last round. All I had to do was play a legal word in the dictionary, and I failed to do that. I played adry, A-D-R-Y, which is only in their national lexicon. And the board came off the play came off the board, and I lost the game by about 10 points. And any other valid word would have gotten the job done. So you never know when your opponent's just going to lose their mind. Obviously, Joe, probably pretty unlikely to a pretty solid and experienced competitor, probably unlikely to make that kind of mistake, but you never know.
And it's also tough, even if that were to happen, to see how he could lose his mind in such a way as to lose a 40-point lead here.
Yes, fair enough. I meant more so fishing for agenetic and hoping that your opponent plays a phony, perhaps. I mean, we just watched Joe play North, which was a huge error. And I think outside of the confines of the game, if you ask Jerry, hey, is North a word? I think he would say, I don't think it is, because northing, easting, westing, but those only south takes the ED.
With the so many times that the dictionary has changed and updated over the years, even for the very best, keeping track of all of the changes and all of the new words can be an incredible challenge. And to have that kind of recall under this kind of pressure is part of what separates the greats from the others.
Well, yeah, competitive pressure just does strange things to the mind, and recalling a word under pressure could just be can really look completely different. And I can think of many times in Scrabble where the pressure's even gotten crushing. You can almost see it materialize in the body language. This is Jerry is no stranger to pressure, having come very, very close, probably as close as anyone has ever been to being national champion without actually sealing the deal. I think I'm reminding a painful memory for some of our local players. Jerry is a stalwart in the Bay Area Scrabble scene, and I think many people wanted him to seal the deal. So I'm remembering a pretty cruel twist of fate where he was one move away from being national champion and didn't quite get there.
There's the eternal question of who are the best players who have not won a nationals, and Jerry has to be included as part of that discussion. Joe going with Uda for 17, which is among his best end games. Toll above ads would have been 1 point extra. Doesn't seem to matter much since Jerry should be going out here. Surprisingly, he only has the one outplay available of Vibes from the V of Vibe.
Vibe and Vibes in one game. You see a little bit of table talk. I wonder what they're discussing.
Yeah, we'll tune into the overhead cam afterwards to see if we can't pick up the post-mortem here and see how long it takes both of them to realize that North was funny, because I'm pretty sure Joe did not do that intentionally.
There's just no reason to do it when you can play Throne for 9 points less.
And
high scoring finish here. Joe just short of that 500 point total, and Jerry at 461. So he does keep the spread quite close by going for aging. It'll be interesting if that pays off for him.
Let's see if we can tune into the post-mortem here.